So before we get going with the message, I just want to thank you all for being here. There are people here for different reasons. Some are here because I paid them to be here and they have to. Some are here because of the baptism. Some are here because they want to hear the story and feel the joy and the inspiration of the story of the resurrection of Jesus. Some are here to see each other and just to enjoy the time of being part of a community. And some of you have been dragged by your ear by somebody that you love, like your mother or grandmother or somebody else, and don't want to be here, your wife or somebody else. A hand went up when I said it. I know you're here. It's okay. And I have a special welcome for you because that is self-giving love. That is sacrificial love. That is doing something you don't want to do for somebody else. And this world could learn a lot from you. Thank you for being here. I appreciate that. One of the phrases that I've always liked is, it's better to be roughly right than exactly wrong. It's always better to be roughly right than exactly wrong. And I learned this in particular when I was back in my corporate career, and we'd be dealing with really detailed models and Excel spreadsheets and financial models and all kinds of stuff, and investment bankers would be involved, and they'd come back and they'd have done all this analysis and come back and say, here's the answer. And I'd be like, that makes no sense. They're like, well, this is exactly what the model says. I'm like, but it's not even directionally correct. It makes no sense at all. They're like, well, let's go through the model and we'll show you. And we'd go through, and invariably there would be just one cell, one little place where they made a mistake and the numbers came out, but because they trusted the model, because they just trusted the individual lines so much, that no matter what the answer came out to, even if it didn't make any sense, they accepted. Instead of looking at it and seeing, does this make sense? And the same thing happens with the Bible all the time. Have you ever heard anybody abuse the Bible by taking an individual line out of it and quote it at you or at somebody else? And almost invariably, it is used to hurt somebody else. It is used to say, we have the right answer and you're not part of the in-group. You're not part of it. Exactly right, but completely wrong. And that dynamic can seep into almost anything. And so I ask you to just think about this idea of it's better to be roughly right than exactly wrong as we go through this passage today, as we go through the resurrection story from the Gospel according to Luke chapter 24, verses 1 through 12. And if anybody's wondering whether the sounds of the children is bothering me or cries bother me, they do not, because I welcome the sounds of all children, young children, babies, children who are 40, 50, like me. Like I'm as much a child. I'll make noises in here like anybody else. And all the sounds are welcome here, because if those sounds aren't there, it means we have no children, and that's certainly not what we want. So the gospel story according to Luke, chapter 24, 1 through 12. It starts with the word but. Now, sometimes we hear the words but, then, and we kind of gloss over them because we don't think they're very important. But, and, then. Those are power words in the Bible because they signal something really important is coming next, and it's referring to something before it. So it goes, but on the first day of the week at early dawn, they came to the tomb taking the spices that they had prepared. This refers to the women who were coming to prepare the body of Jesus that had been put into the tomb. They were going to do the ceremonial things that they did with spices and ointments and other stuff that they couldn't do on the day that he was killed because they didn't have time because the Sabbath was approaching and they couldn't do that work before. So they think he is dead. They have no expectation that he is going to be alive. They think they're just coming to take care of the body. They found the stone rolled away from the tomb. But when they went in, they did not find the body. Well, they were perplexed about this. Suddenly, two men in dazzling clothes stood beside them. The women were terrified and bowed their faces to the ground. But the men said to them, why do you look for the living among the dead? He is not here. He has risen. Remember how he told you while he was still in Galilee that the Son of Man must be handed over to sinners and crucified, and on the third day rise again. Then they remembered. They remembered his words, and returning to the tomb, returning from the tomb, they told all this to the 11 and all the rest. Now it was Mary Magdalene, Joanna, Mary the mother of James, and the other women with them who told this to the apostles. But these words seemed to them an idle tale, and they did not believe them. But Peter got up and ran to the tomb, stooping and looking in, and he saw the linen clothes by themselves. Then he went home amazed at what had happened. So the women come to the tomb expecting a dead body. But they find two angels who are there saying to them, "He is risen." They have no expectation he is going to be alive. But they remind them of something Jesus had told to them already. Have you ever experienced that? Where you're in the middle of something, whether it's an exam or something traumatic has happened to you, or somebody has died, or something really hard has happened, and something obvious that you have been taught and told, and you forget it, and then someone reminds you, like, oh, that's right. Oh, that's right. That's what's going on here. See, these women had been with Jesus for years, walking with him, supporting his cause, because the women financially supported the cause of Jesus, by the way. With him for years, supporting, listening. He had told them what was going to happen, told them, and they didn't remember. They were just expecting, or didn't believe, and just expecting a dead body. They didn't get it. The angels come. He is risen, but he is alive. So they accept this, believe this, and they run to go tell the other disciples. And they're like, guess what? Guess what happened? Guess what we just found out? And the other disciples here are like, yeah, right. Yeah. Get out of here. What are you talking about? Right, these are people who were with Jesus for years, who were listening to his teachings, who were doing the things that he did, who went all around and talked on his behalf, who did the circuit around Galilee and other places, teaching what he taught, doing what he did. And they came and they heard just back what he said was going to happen to them a bunch of times, he told them. And they're like, I don't think so. So, if you have questions about whether this happened exactly like it did, or whether it happened at all, you are in good company, because the people who spent years with him had the same questions. So don't beat up on yourself or let anybody else beat up on you if you express that you have some concerns about what happened here. But Jesus did all the miracles. He has to be the one, because he did all the miracles. Well, you know what? Jesus wasn't the only one who did a lot of miracles. All the disciples did miracles. Some after Jesus had died, and so people might say, well, Jesus transferred his power just to them. No, the disciples did a lot of miracles while Jesus was alive. There was a time when Jesus sent the disciples out to go out into the world and check things out, and it said Jesus went to go do some healing to people, and Jesus couldn't do it. You don't hear about Jesus not being able to do stuff very often. But there are periods of time when Jesus went to go heal people, and he couldn't. And a period of time when the disciples went out, and they could. Also, there's this other guy who was out there, not related to the disciples, not related to Jesus, but during Jesus' time, who was healing people in Jesus' name. And the disciples were like, stop doing that. Stop doing that. And they went back to Jesus and they're like, Jesus, there's this guy who's not part of our in crowd healing in your name. And Jesus is like, you stop it. If this person's doing good in the world, just because they're not under your control, why would you stop them from doing good in the world in my name? Don't be all about being in the in crowd. Well, but what about Lazarus? Jesus was the only one who raised somebody from the dead. Nope. In the Hebrew Bible, in the Old Testament, Elijah and Elisha both raised people from the dead, children and adults. But, Jesus is the Messiah. Jesus said he was the Messiah. Other people said he was the Messiah. A lot of people said they were the Messiah. A lot of people said they were Messiah. People before Jesus said they were Messiah. People after Jesus said they were the Messiah. people during Jesus' lifetime said the Messiah, like different people, like, it's me, I'm the Messiah, I'm the Messiah. You know what happened to all of them? They were killed, like Jesus was, by the religious leaders and the state, collaborating, by Rome. Some of them were crucified, just like Jesus. Some of them were stoned. Some of them had their heads cut off, just like John the Baptist did. Right? And you know what happened to the followers of those messiahs? They scattered. Because what Rome would do after they killed the leader, they would go after the people who were the followers and try to kill them too. So the people were afraid and scared, and so they all scattered. And you know what happened to Jesus' disciples after he was captured and killed? What happened? What did the disciples do? They scattered, just like everybody else. But. Don't the four Gospels all say exactly the same thing? Can't we at least count on the four Gospels in the Bible to tell us exactly the same thing? No. They each tell a slightly different story, but one thing is always the same. The women are always the first ones to the tomb. The women are always the ones who are at the cross, and the women are always the first ones to the tomb while the guys are all scattered around scared. Not all that different than today? Saying? Right? So we've got this. The four Gospels don't all say the same thing. In one, there's one angel. In another, there's two angels. In another, Mary Magdalene is the first one and only one there, and she thinks Jesus is the gardener, and that doesn't take place in the other three Gospels. And all kinds of little details aren't exactly the same. So when you hear all this, it would be a reasonable question to ask, so what exactly did happen? Here's the answer. I don't know. I'm sorry if that's not a particularly comforting answer in this minute, but I'm going to bring this together, right? I'm going to bring this together. I know this is not a particularly comforting answer. I don't know exactly what happened, but something happened. I don't know exactly how many women were there, whether it's Mary Magdalene first and then the others, or how many of them were there and exactly who was there, but I know something happened. I don't know whether there was one angel or two angels there. I don't know exactly how many angels there were, but something happened. I don't know why one person who did these miracles while other people were able to do them became someone who was followed and created a movement beyond all expectations. I don't know exactly how that happened, but something happened. I don't know why Jesus, among all the different people who said they were the Messiah and did all kinds of things and taught well and inspired the people and did things, I don't know exactly why Jesus is the one who became someone that we follow. I don't know exactly what happened, but something happened. Something happened. I don't know why. With all of the other messiahs, when the disciples scattered, never to be heard from again in history, why after Jesus' disciples scattered, why they suddenly and inexplicably regathered and rallied and began to develop a movement with the institutions and the power of Rome all going against them. I don't know exactly how that happened, but something happened. I don't know what took these disciples, men and women, from a place of not understanding what was going on, of being terrified, to being willing to go out in the streets and say, I am here to tell you about Jesus of Nazareth. I am here to tell you about love, about loving each other as Jesus loved us. I don't know what made people have that courage, unlike all the other people who scattered, but I know one thing. Something happened. I don't know how this small, ragtag, poor group of people started a movement that would spread throughout the world. I don't know exactly how that happened, but I know one thing: something happened. I don't know how a group of people who were terrified were willing then to change their attitude and risk their lives, and most of them actually ending up in their lives, having to give up their lives because they were followers of Jesus. I don't know exactly how that change happened, but I know something happened. And I don't know exactly how the living Jesus, once someone begins to follow them, I don't know exactly how Jesus gets their heart to change. But something happens. I don't know exactly how Jesus, when people start to follow him, gets that person to begin to take risks on behalf of people they don't even know, to be willing to go and do justice for people they will never meet, to risk friendships, relationships with family members, to do the right thing, to stand up for the people who the state and other religious entities are oppressing and putting down and condemning. I don't know what it is that the living Jesus does in the heart of people to get them to sacrifice something, to donate, to give their time, to volunteer, to go out in the street and protest, to do all of these things, to self-sacrifice for somebody else who they may never meet, or maybe they will, and there's nothing that person can do back for them. I don't know exactly what it is that this living Jesus does. I don't know exactly how that happens. But something happens. I don't know exactly what happened on that day. I don't know how many angels there were, which women were there first. I don't know whether there's a gardener there or not. I don't know exactly what happened on that day. But I know something happened. And I don't know exactly how Jesus does it. I don't know exactly how the living Jesus works in the hearts of all of us and those who choose to actually follow him, how that makes people choose to change their entire lives. But something happens. And when it does, it is beautiful. Amen.